Australia's housing affordability inquiry has revealed there isn't enough supply keeping up with the growing population. Anne Flaherty, economist at REA Group, joins me live now. And good morning to you. Plenty to discuss. Let's start with the federal government because they have released their report on housing affordability in the country. So what are some of the most important suggestions from the report?
The report was very interesting. There are myriad factors that affect housing affordability, and it outlines quite a few of them. I think one of the important factors that the report recognises is that over the last few decades, enough properties have not been built to keep up with Australia's growing population. And so it does make the suggestion of increasing density limits in certain areas, particularly in those areas that already have good transport infrastructure that's currently underutilised. Also things that help to improve that development application process, anything that you can do to sort of help get more properties built where they need to be. Another recommendation by the report that we can really get behind is a suggestion to abolish stamp duty and move to a more broad-based land tax. Now, this is something that the majority of economists agree would be a good thing. The challenge, of course, is that short-term blow to state budgets transitioning away from stamp duty. So, this is something that would be great to be done, but it would probably require the assistance of the federal government to get moving.
It certainly sounds that way. And what about the property investors? The presence of them has certainly been growing in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. We are seeing more and more property investors coming back to the market. We saw property investment really fall away, mid-2020, but they've been steadily coming back. In January, around 1/3 of new loans went to property investors, which is the highest level seen since early 2018. And actually, it was the most money spent by property investors on record. So, what's interesting, though, is on realestate.com.au, we can see where investors are looking to buy. And what's interesting is that the areas that have seen the most growth in demand from property investors are actually not in Victoria and New South Wales. We're seeing a lot of interest in Queensland, also in Perth. So areas that are not too far away from the capital cities. Interestingly, the kinds of areas that investors are looking at actually line up with the areas that we've seen the most growth in owner-occupier demand as well. So they're sort of in the same page as to where they're looking.
And with talk of interest rates going up, are we seeing a difference in people going to auctions and anything different that you're seeing on realestate.com.au of late?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's growing sentiment that the RBA is going to make a move on interest rates sometime over the next 12 months. And the question is when, and a lot of people are looking to get into the market sooner rather than later because they're anticipating that interest rates are going to rise. So if we look at the number of properties coming up for auction at the moment, it's above what we typically see for the time of year. It's extremely high. And sales volumes, likewise, have been very high. So this is good news for buyers, but at the same time, it does suggest to us that there is this real push to buy sooner rather than later. And I think that interest rates and the possibility of a rise are one of the driving factors here.
All right, but we certainly have to keep mindful of that, don't we? If we are looking to buy something in the market with low interest rates, but then increasing, but certainly something to watch. Very interesting time over the next few months. And the loss of international students as well through the pandemic has certainly had a significant impact on our CBDs. And now that the borders are certainly reopening, are we starting to see any recovery?
Do from the time that the announcement that the border would reopen to international students, we actually saw a massive spike in the number of people searching to rent properties in CBDs. The growth was particularly strong in the Melbourne CBD, which was wonderful news because, of course, it's probably been the hardest hit CBD in Australia. Since the border reopened to international students in mid-December last year, we've seen over 100,000 international students arrive in the country. For context, just 5,000 arrived in the entire 18 months before that. So a lot of these students are looking for properties in and around the CBD, in and around those student suburbs, and this is really going to help to support the recovery of our cities.
Certainly is a lot of movement. Thanks so much, Anne Flaherty, Economist at REA Group. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks.